Welcome to the 44th edition of Stump the Pastor. Our question today comes from Dave in Birmingham. And he says, one of my favorite questions was submitted by a child, and it was, do animals go to heaven? Well, first of all, thanks for the question, Dave. And yes, I have received this same question from children as well. And my unequivocal answer is yes. The best part of this answer is the thrill on the face of a child who has lost an animal that they loved and who loved them unconditionally. You can't replace it. The adults in the situation are another matter. It is one of the reasons I love getting to see how kids respond. You see, they can't imagine a world where their beloved pet is not cherished for who he or she is. So what is the problem with adults? Well, many of us adults have accumulated beliefs and ideas about God since we were children. These beliefs and ideas twist us sometimes into illogical and bizarre assumptions. You've probably heard someone say, to go to heaven means someone must profess the acceptance of Jesus into their hearts. And yes, many churches require a profession of faith to become part of the church, including mine. I would say that saying the words and living the meaning can be two different things. And I have seen more love, care, and joy in the eyes of a dog than thousands of screaming Christians calling down God's wrath on something with which they disagree. In fact, I named one of my dogs Joy. It was after she chose my house to live in when she was just a puppy. Everything about her, from the sweeping energy of her tail, to the body gyrations of greeting, to the need to be close to me when she saw me, simply embodied joy in the purest form I have ever known. It made me want to be the kind of person that she thought I was. The bigger question that we would rather not have to answer may be what we mean about heaven. You know, like all things spiritual, when we attempt to make a spiritual reality into a physical place, we tie ourselves in knots. Most of us really know, if we think hard about it, that heaven isn't a physical place. It is a spiritual reality. When we say someone has gone to heaven, it doesn't mean that they live just past the second star on the right side of the moon. Faith language and logic language often use the same words to talk about different realities. That's why I often speak of these kinds of topics in terms of grace. You see, rather than try to create logical boundaries around spiritual realities, I try to imagine simply being in God's presence, to be surrounded by God's grace. Now we know that the ancients looked to the skies as the residence of God. But we know God has no physical address. God is beyond our limiting conceptions, and so is grace. We can't manipulate it or limit it to our constructed enclosures. We simply receive it as gifts. So, for adults listening, I am willing to have these conceptual discussions of how we experience grace, heaven, God, love, because we have the ability to ponder such realities. For children, heaven is with God. Their puppy or goldfish or bird or rabbit is part of that heaven. If we believe God created the world, then why wouldn't God welcome all creatures into that grace when their bodies have failed or grown old? But here's the other part that I don't understand, and this is the one that perplexes me most. Why would an adult tell a grieving child that their beloved pet is not in heaven? Do we really care more about our assumptions and doctrines than our children? All that we say we know about who we are, all that we know, is received by faith through grace. Why wouldn't we offer that same grace to our children? See you next time on Stump the Pastor. Thanks for the question, Dave. It was one of the ones I really enjoy. If you have a question you've often wondered about, send it to me. My address is on the bottom of your screen. I hope to hear from you next time on Stump the Pastor.